Syracuse absolutely dominates Delaware State on Saturday afternoon. And folks, I don't know about you, but I am starting to feel that this team may be a little bit different.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Another absolute spanking by Syracuse basketball. How are we all feeling, Syracuse basketball fans? Comment your thoughts right now in the comments section below. Let's ignore Syracuse football for just a moment. I'm recording this about 15 minutes before kickoff, so at the time of this recording, I have no idea what is going to happen between Syracuse and Miami on Saturday afternoon and into the evening. But regarding Syracuse basketball, 83-43 victory over Delaware State. Start to finish, maximum defensive effort, maximum effort in general. This team appears to be a little bit different than in years past under Adrian Autry. We're going to go over a game recap in just a moment. We'll also talk about how everyone on this team through 2 games, it seems like they have a role. And that's a really good thing for Syracuse basketball moving forward. Plus, we'll talk about some of the mistakes and the miscues that they had in this game, things that Syracuse can clean up as they have 2 more quote-unquote cupcake games remaining on the schedule before they go to Vegas to take on Houston and Kansas. All that and more coming up here on this post-game reaction podcast on Locked On Syracuse. Once again, Syracuse basketball beats Delaware State 83-43. This team, I want to be very clear, is not perfect, but through 2 games, they have been an absolute joy to watch, and it has just been a breath of fresh air in general watching Syracuse basketball these first 2 games. I understand they're not going up against the greatest competition in the world. Binghamton, Delaware State, those are teams that are probably not going to make much noise in college basketball this season. But we remember last year, and we remember other years where Syracuse basketball would go up against teams like this and either win close, take their foot off the gas for 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes even lose to mid-major opponents. I was in the Dome when Syracuse a few years ago lost to Bryant, and I believe it was on a buzzer beater, if my memory serves correct. No JJ Starling in this game, still out with a lower body injury. Hopefully it's not too severe. Hopefully they can get him back in a couple of weeks when they do go to Vegas. But for now, and this is no disrespect to JJ Starling, no JJ Starling, no problem for Syracuse basketball. They've only had him on the court for 3 minutes out of 40 or out of 80 this season, and they're just dominating these games from start to finish. This team's quote-unquote give a damn meter is incredibly high, and they seem to all understand the assignment. They know it's not good enough to go on the court and coast out there and, I don't know, maybe beat Delaware State by 18 points and you think that that's good, but in reality, it's not. Instead, they give their maximum effort, maximum defensive intensity, and you beat Delaware State by 40 points. Guess what? Syracuse basketball, I just checked KenPom. They moved up a couple of spots. You get rewarded by destroying bad competition. Isn't that nice? Isn't that refreshing to see from Syracuse basketball? And by the way, if you were listening to the broadcast, you may have caught this. Adrian Autry's keys to the game for Syracuse were not really X's and O's related. I mean, you could say that defense is a little bit of X's and O's, obviously, and you need to communicate when you are on defense. But his 2 keys to the game were max effort and defensive intensity. That's really it when you're going up against these teams, because if you do both those things, not only are you going to win, but you are going to win by 40 points, which is what Syracuse did this afternoon. Now, there were 2 players, in my opinion, that really set the tone for Syracuse basketball in this one. And there were moments in the first half where there were some offensive possessions I didn't love. Nathan George early in the game, he's pulling up like he's Steph Curry from downtown. I love Nate George. He did not have the greatest game this afternoon, and he's got to know that he is not Steph Curry. Everyone has their limitations, but back to the two guys that set the tone. Number one's Donnie Freeman, and number two is, I love this kid, Kiyan Anthony. Absolutely love him, okay? But let's get to Donnie Freeman first. First possession of the game. One of the big questions for Syracuse basketball after the first one, or after the first game, I should say, is can they shoot the basketball from deep? We saw right away on the first possession, Donnie Freeman, I believe it was from the right wing, knocked down an open three-point shot. It was not an example of Syracuse basketball on offense settling for a deep shot early in the shot clock. No, Donnie Freeman's wide open. And Donnie Freeman last year shot 33% from the three-point line, which is respectable for a big man. It's one of those shots that you got to take, and also you're open, so make it too. And he does that right away. Then on the next possession, he goes to the basket, he gets fouled. Unfortunately, he only made 1 of 2 free throws. Free throw shooting is definitely a concern for Syracuse through 2 games, but I like the aggressiveness that Donnie Freeman showed in the first couple of possessions of this matchup. But the moment that I love the most about Donnie Freeman, and it perfectly exemplifies Syracuse basketball through 2 games, is there was a moment in the second half. Syracuse is up by 28 points. They're already on their way to dominating Delaware State. This is not going to be a close game. Even if they take their foot off the gas, they're going to win by 20 points. Luckily, they didn't. They won by 40. But Donnie Freeman, with his team up 28 points, about 14 minutes left in the game, he commits his third foul. And when he commits his third foul, he immediately starts yelling to Adrian Autry, no, no, no. Basically telling Adrian Autry to not take him off the floor. Does that not perfectly exemplify Syracuse basketball right now and how they all seem to give a damn when they're on the court? They all seem to be giving their max effort when they're on the court. When they're on the court, they don't want to leave. And when they're on the bench, they want to go in the game. And I know this sounds basic. Like this is just fundamental. You're a Division I athlete. This is what you love to do. But at the end of the day, it is a Saturday afternoon. You're playing against a team that you know is not very good, that on talent alone, you are going to win the game. But Donnie Freeman's out here yelling to his coach to keep him in a game where his team is up 28 points. They don't need him on the floor for the final 14 minutes to close it out. He gets his third foul, and yet he is still demanding that he is on the floor. That's called leadership from Donnie Freeman. That was probably my favorite moment of the game. Absolutely loved that from him. And next up, Kayen Anthony. I love Kayen Anthony, and it's not just because his last name is Anthony and that he is the son of Carmelo Anthony. I love Kayen Anthony because he seems like he's really good. This is now 2 consecutive games to start his career with Syracuse where he has played really well. What do I like about Kayen Anthony? Number one, he's a better defender than I expected, and maybe that's a product of the competition, but he's very active on the defensive end. But as far as his scoring, which is what we knew he could be coming into school right away, which is a good scorer, he's great. He can score in a variety of different ways. Made a left wing 3 that made it 30-11 Syracuse in the first half. It was actually a 4-point play. He drew a foul on it, but he missed the free throw. Free throw shooting, again, a bugaboo for Syracuse. He also had a great take to the rim that made it 35-17 Syracuse in the first half. Those are just a couple of examples. But if you go back and you watch Kiyan Anthony in this performance against Delaware State, I'll tell you what, he is pushing his way into the starting lineup. We'll talk more about that in the next segment here on Locked On Syracuse, but comment your thoughts below on Kiyan Anthony right now. Do you think that he should be in the starting lineup for Syracuse moving forward? I know for now he's in the starting lineup because of the JJ Starling injury, but that might need to be a full-time thing. Comment your thoughts in the comment section below. Once again, Locked On Syracuse, I'm Jackson Holzer. We are recapping Syracuse basketball's 83-43 victory over Delaware State. Coming up, We'll talk more about Kiyan Anthony and the fact that maybe he should be in the starting lineup full time even when JJ Starling comes back from injury. But more importantly, everyone on Syracuse basketball seems to have a role. I'll explain more next on Locked On Syracuse. It's the weekend. Let's crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. And just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. And let's break it down for Syracuse basketball. So many different players, honestly, could earn the award this week for this performance against Delaware State. So I'm just going through the box score right now. It's close. I'm going to give it to Donnie Freeman for 20 points, 5 rebounds. But more importantly, it was the moment I just talked about in the second half where he exemplified terrific leadership, in my opinion, by demanding to his coach to be on the floor with his team up 28 points in the second half after he committed his third foul. And just like Donnie Freeman delivered for Syracuse, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive for your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Locked On Syracuse, I'm Jackson Holzer. Once again, we are recapping Syracuse basketball's 83-43 victory on Saturday afternoon against Delaware State. And hey, since you've already made it to this point in the podcast, I hope that means you enjoy Locked On Syracuse. It certainly seems like it could be a promising season for Syracuse basketball, and we're going to have plenty of content coming your way with Syracuse basketball. So to stay up to date, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. It helps Locked On Syracuse grow to reach all Syracuse Orange fans. And plus, doing those things completely free. So thank you all so much for the continued support here on Locked On Syracuse. One of my favorite things about this team, very early in the season, it's only been 2 games against 2 cupcakes that they have dominated to their credit. But one of my favorite things about this team is that everyone on the court seems to have a role. There is a reason for everyone to be on the court. And that is unlike the past 2 years for Syracuse basketball with Adrian Autry. And I'm not going to start going through the old players of Syracuse basketball in the Adrian Autry era. But that's why, or that's one of the reasons why this team feels a little bit different. It's not just the fact that, hey, they're a little bit more athletic now. They can run up and down the court. Everyone seems to have a purpose when they are on the court. And as a result, it makes Adrian Autry's job as the head coach a lot easier. It's a lot easier to predict Adrian Autry's substitution patterns because you know, given the situation, what players need to be on the court. Number one with this team, and this is a breath of fresh air, I think, for everyone, defense and effort. It's not an option for any Syracuse basketball player. So far, everyone on the team, when they are on the court, they are displaying maximum effort and maximum defensive intensity. They are trying their absolute very best. So even when they go into lulls on offense, they're still caring about the defensive side of the floor. So it doesn't really matter that they go into a lull on offense. It's unlike what we've seen in the past 2 years. That's all I'll say. And Adrian Autry's message to his guys, it seems to be, if you're not playing with maximum effort and maximum defensive intensity, then you won't play. It's that simple. Everyone knows it's a make or break year. Everyone knows that it's tournament or bust. If you don't make the tournament, changes are coming. Sometimes it's a good thing to be aware of that. Because now when you're on the court, you're playing for your job. That's what you're doing. The message is very clear with Syracuse basketball right now. But number 2, the stores on Syracuse basketball. You know that Donnie Freeman is a store. You know that JJ Starling went healthy. He is a store for Syracuse basketball. And number 3, Kayen Anthony. He is a store for Syracuse basketball. So much so that I think it may be time to make him a full-time starter for this team. I know that for now, he's in the starting lineup because of the JJ Starling injury. But the way he has played through 2 games, he has looked absolutely fantastic. He has been easily a top 3 player on this team right now. When you look at Syracuse basketball's roster, one of these guys is going to have to come off the bench. JJ Starling, Nate Kings, or Kiyan Anthony. That's a really good problem to have. Dion Waiters, in the early 2010s, he was the 4th overall pick in the NBA draft. 4th overall. Dion Waiters played 71 games for Syracuse basketball. He did not start a single game. That's right. You can go check College Reference yourself. Dion Waiters never started a game in 71 contests. He was the 4th overall pick. Devin Booker at Kentucky, he famously did not start a single game. I can't remember if he was a lottery pick or not, but he was definitely a first-round pick, upper half, I believe. Point is that you're allowed to have good players come off the bench. And when you now have a trio of JJ Starling when healthy, Nate Kings, and Kayen Anthony, and one of those guys has to come off the bench, that's excellent for Syracuse. Absolutely amazing. You got a couple of facilitators on this roster. Nate George, obviously, he's the headliner, the transfer from Georgia Tech. He was really good in the first game, less so in this one. He had kind of an off performance. He's not perfect, ladies and gentlemen. It's okay. And Luke Fennell, the true freshman. Now, I don't think Luke Fennell is going to play as much as Syracuse starts playing against tougher competition, but for now, this experience is really good for him. And I thought he looked better in this game against Delaware State than he did in the season opener against Binghamton. It seemed like the pace seemed to slow down for him a little bit. That's a good thing. You got your shooters on this team, and I'd argue that Syracuse does need more shooting. They definitely do. Nate Kings, good to see him finally get on the board with a 3-point shot in the second half. That's cool. He's got to get going, but you know that Syracuse is relying on him to be a good shooter. But what's good about Nate Kings is that, to his credit, he's not only a shooter. Meaning, if he's on the court and he's not hitting his shot, he is not a complete liability in other areas of the game. So you can still play him. It would just be nice if he can start getting that shot falling, because that's where his greatest impact can come. The other shooter on the team is Tyler Betsy. Tyler Betsy had a solid performance in this one. I believe he only took 4 threes, but he made 2 of them. You'll take 7 points off the bench in general from Tyler Betsy game in and game out. That's totally fine. I'm good with that. And then you have your quote-unquote ace defenders, because, again, everyone on this team is expected to defend no matter who you are or where you're from. But you have guys like Sadiq White, true freshman. He's still raw. He's going to get better over the course of the season, and I think he's going to be much better in year 2. But he's a great defender. William Kyle is an outstanding defender. I don't know what Evan Maya, that site, that analytical tool that he used a lot over the offseason, is saying, calling him not actually a good defender. And I would point that out over the course of the offseason, like, hey, I don't know what the deal is, but this thing is saying he's not a very good defender. My eyes tell me he's a great defender. Absolutely terrific. And we'll see how he does against better competition, but for now, at least he's handling the inferior competition quite well. Akir Soare, he's not great on offense, I'll tell you that, but at least he can defend. At least he can provide serviceable minutes off the bench, it seems like. They're going to need Akir Soare at times. You're not going to play William Kyle 35 minutes a game. You may need Soare for 5-10 minutes. Can he at least provide good defense? Have him in the game with other scorers? Absolutely. Sure, have JJ Starling out there, have Kiyan Anthony out there, maybe even have Donnie Freeman out there as well. You also have Akir Soare who can give you good defense. Cool. Even Bryce Zephyr. can defend a little bit. So overall, with Syracuse basketball, it's only been 2 games. We cannot completely overreact here, but you can see why everyone is on the court, because everyone on this team seems to have a role. And that is unlike what we have seen in the Adrian Autry era so far. Agree with me? Disagree with me? Comment your thoughts in the comments section below. Now, coming up, we'll talk about the road ahead for Syracuse basketball, what needs to improve for Syracuse basketball. Stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. And join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Locked On Syracuse, I'm Jackson Holzer. As you can probably imagine, this has been a pretty upbeat, positive podcast so far. Isn't that nice? Some positivity for Syracuse basketball. Feels so good to talk about them in this way because they really are a joy to watch. But having said that, we can go over the road ahead for this team and some things that they do need to clean up when they start going up against better competition. And that better competition, ladies and gentlemen, is going to start on Monday, November 24th, when Syracuse basketball heads to Vegas and they play Houston. And then the following day, they're going to play Kansas. I know Kansas, they just lost to North Carolina. I think that might mean that North Carolina is really good. I don't think Kansas is just going to roll over this year and be terrible. They're Kansas. They're usually pretty good year in and year out. Maybe they're not the 1 or 2 seed in March Madness like tradition, but they're still most likely going to make the NCAA tournament. And you're playing North Carolina twice this season. So that won't be easy for Syracuse. We'll see how they do when they play up against better competition. But for now, Syracuse still has 2 more games ahead of them before we can even really talk about Vegas. Those next 2 games, you got next Saturday, so you got a full week off. You're playing Drexel and Philly. And then you got Monmouth that Tuesday, November 18th, back in the JMA Wireless Dome. Syracuse, they should dominate those games. Those should be easy wins. They should be expected to win by, at minimum, 20 points. I have to check where those teams are at in KenPom, but yeah, those should be dominating wins for Syracuse basketball. And the expectation has elevated a little bit based on these first 2 performances. You should be pretty good against those teams. But they do need to clean up some areas of their game. The first one, I don't know what analysis you want me to provide here, but it is the free throw shooting. I don't know what to tell you about their free throw shooting, but it is not very good. And this game against Delaware State, they could have won by even more than 40 points if they were hitting their free throws. Syracuse basketball, to be clear, in this game, 11 for 21 at the free throw line. That is, I'm looking at it right now, 52%. 52, by the way, is my lucky number, but it ain't a good free throw percentage. That ain't good enough, and they were not good in the season opener with their free throws. Donnie Freeman was respectable, 7 for 10. Kayen Anthony, I love Kayen Anthony, 1 for 4 at the free throw line. I know Kayen Anthony is capable of hitting free throws at a pretty high level. I know it's limited sample, but 1 for 4, can't go 1 for 4 at the free throw line. I'm sorry. At least 3 for 4. How about that? 11 for 21. It's just not good enough. That needs to be better when you're going up against Houston and you're going up against Kansas, especially against Houston, where points are going to come at a premium because you know the Houston Cougars and how strong they are year in and year out with Kelvin Sampson on defense. So free throw shooting, it's got to be better. Outside shooting in general, let me check how Syracuse basketball did today from the three-point line. Okay, it was respectable. Maybe it was better than you think if you actually tuned into this game. They were 8 for 21 from the three-point line, so high volume, but they made 38%. 38% you will take any day of the week. So that's fine. That was better than the first game against Binghamton. And the turnovers were a problem for Syracuse basketball in this game. A lot of it is from Nate George. He had some turnovers before he can even cross half court. I think I charted 3 of them to be specific. That's what I'm saying. Nate George did not have the greatest game in the world. Let me check it right now. Nate George had 5 turnovers in this one. And Syracuse basketball as a team, 14 turnovers. You turn the ball over 14 times against Houston, what do you think is going to happen? You turn it over 14 times against Kansas, what do you think is going to happen? Good news is that in the season opener against Binghamton, they took care of the basketball. One concern that I have is there were moments in this game where Syracuse did have trouble beating a full court press from Delaware State. And the broadcast mentioned it. It was Eric Devendorf specifically saying, like, Houston and Kansas are going to watch this film. And they're going to see that Syracuse had a little bit of a hard time breaking the full court press against Delaware State. This is kind of the segment of the podcast where we have to kind of come back down to earth just a little bit. There's been 95, even more. There's been 98% positivity with this team so far. They've basically done all that we could ask for, but they still need to improve. They still need to fine-tune some things. But it's good that they can fine-tune some things knowing when they're on the court what they are expected to do. Are you expected to score? Are you expected to shoot threes? You're all expected to defend. Are you supposed to facilitate? Whatever the case may be, at least everyone has a role. So now you can focus on fine-tuning your craft. I think this team could get better over the course of the season. And they already seem to have a very strong foundation that is in place. So comment your thoughts in the comments section below. This is Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. Coming up on this podcast later tonight, we will have a Syracuse football post-game reaction podcast talking Syracuse and Miami. The game just kicked off. I have no idea what is happening at the time of this recording, so I'm going to stop this recording right now. I'm going to go flip on the game, and I will see you all later tonight to talk post-game Syracuse-Miami. Take care, everyone.